Well, first of all, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I want to get right into this. What was it about becoming a devotee of Krishna, a Hindu monastic, that appealed to you? Why did you follow this path?
It happened, I think, gradually in retrospect. I look at my high school days as when I got introduced to Bob Marley and the Wailers. Mm-hmm. And I was slowing down my world, through some herbs. And I started to question, what's going on? Where is everyone rushing to? Who set up the world the way it is? And why do I have to participate in that? And especially I was looking at everyone older than myself. Are they getting any happier doing all the things that they're doing? Mm-hmm. So hearing also Bob Marley with his conscious, you could say it was philosophical, religious, spiritual, political. Yeah, it's just so hits very deep. And so then I was looking out for any wisdom culture that can give us an alternative. So fast forward to my university days, I was just walking down the corridors with my friend and I saw a poster, Bhakti Yoga Society. They had a topic, a cure for all diseases. And initially I thought, these guys, who are these guys? Yoga caught my eye. We all thought, okay, we should check it out. But their topic, are they also smoking some herb or something? Cure for all diseases. Uh-huh. So we descended onto that program. And I remember seeing the monks, and naturally we were attracted. We thought these guys are young and they look different than anyone we've seen. They must know something we all don't know. Mm. We wanted to find out what you guys into. And they told us they were doing this Bhakti Yoga session. And we're like, that's what we came for. So one of the monks, he was speaking, tall guy, Afrikaner guy. Remember, South Africa is like apartheid history. And at that time, we're in a Black consciousness movement also. So we're thinking, what's this Afrikaner guy going to tell us? But he's so calm. He's so zen, big old smile. He spoke about we're not the body, we're the soul. And that was just like light bulb moment for me because I was battling with this, just identifying with my skin as my ultimate identity. Mm-hmm. And I felt there were rogues and rascals amongst the African people, the white people, the Chinese. It's not that just the white man colonized us and so he's all bad, that the Black man looks like me, so he's all good. Mm. So when he said that about the soul, it caught my attention and I decided, let me hear them. He spoke, it made some sense. They had the nice little song. We sang and danced and they were vegetarian. And from my Rasta days, I'd always been looking, when would I actually put into practice this Aital living? So yeah, from that day, I decided to just come for their sessions. Mm. And slowly, gradually, I appreciated that their story was in sync. Whomever you spoke with, it wasn't just what they thought. And it also fit in all the other informations that I'd already found out.
I see.
Yeah.
So would you say the yogic path is a path to this health and happiness and maybe curing all diseases?
Yes. I'd say in due course of time, I found out actually that ultimately the biggest anomaly or disease is that we have this physical body, this temporary body. And we are like an eternal being within a temporary body.
Mm-hmm.
And so in one sense, it's a disease on the spiritual being.
Mm.
At the same time, it's an opportunity to experience so many things. And also it can be used to gain that spiritual advantage again. So the yogic path offers a lot of remedies, physical, psychological, and ultimately spiritual. So in one sense, it cures a lot of disease.
Mm. Yeah. So would you say it cures the disease, the malady of the humanly conditioned, the body, like you said, it cures it by almost, in a way, changing up the perspective on what the body is. So it goes from maybe the perspective of a prison to a temple. Would you say that's kind of aligning with the yogic path?
Of course. Most of the time, it's difficult for people to perceive that this body is somewhat of a limitation, a sort of a trap for me. And when one sort of understands that the body and the core identity are different, then one can sort of see where it limits them. But then the yogic path teaches how you can use this very body, the mind, the intellect, the senses, to develop your spiritual awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So then you begin to value this body so much, and you also treat it as sacred, like you were mentioning. It becomes a temple, and then you think consciously what to put in it, whether through your eating, your hearing, your seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's quite transformative.
Mm. It's like we use the body to realize that we are more than the body. Like you got to start here in a way, like this is the foundation, but then one may find on the path through the yogic modalities and practices that our self, our identity is infinite. It's quite unfathomable. It's way more than we've been told. It's way more than the five senses. It's way more than all the pains and pleasures of the body. But it's weirdly ironic. We need to start with the body, almost like start with the problem. I don't know if problem is even the right word, but we start with like you said, realizing that it's some sort of malady, aka I'm just pretty much saying our suffering. We start with the suffering and saying, hey man, there's got to be another way. There has to be another way to see this. Yeah, in that I feel as though that's how one realizes God. Personally speaking, man, when I started on the yogic path myself, I didn't have any belief in a God per se. I didn't have any kind of like idea or direct experience of being a part of a greater whole. I just did it to feel good. I started the asana practice pretty much just as a means of health. And then through that health, the byproduct of it seemed to be a realization upon realization upon realizations that really amounted to, whoa, this is a temple. This is a divine experience that I find myself in. And then that just fed the yogic path even more, just kind of like from there, it's just like a back and forth thing. But you know what I mean? Like, I feel as though, I don't know, from personally speaking, but others as well, we get started on the path, not as a means to, figure out our divinity. It just seems to come along the way. It's quite peculiar.
Yeah. It tends to be like, we're trying to troubleshoot some problems.
Yeah.
We're finding limitations, and we see that we're repeating. There's all these patterns that no longer serve us, and when we start to inquire internally, like, why do things work the way they do?
Mm-hmm.
Or why do people function in certain ways? And so these questions, like in the Vedas, it is said like that the first aphorism of this Vedanta Sutra is Tato Brahma Jigyasa, that now that you're in the human form of life, it is time to inquire into the absolute truth.
Yeah.
So we've been inquiring about so many other things. Once we start to desire to know how to solve the existential crisis we meet, and then almost miraculously, if you look back, you see people start coming into your space that give you certain informations. You bump into books and podcasts, and it just starts to all unfold.
Yeah, starts
towards
to flow.
answering these questions. Yeah.
Now, would you say this desire, this yearning for a return to Krishna, to a divine essence within one's life, is like the epitome of all of our desire? Or is that what every single human being really deep down, even if they don't recognize it, is yearning for? And ultimately that is a means to peace and happiness and bliss in our life. We just have misplaced priorities on how to go about reaching this so-called peace, happiness, and bliss.
Yes. Actually, desire is at the core of how our life moves. And so we're living in a world where there's these narratives that have been spun before us. We get born into a world that presents sort of a paradigm. This is how you'll be happy. This is what success is.
Materialism.
Yeah. And with that, then we shape our desires. We all try to get these things. We race towards them. We fight each other for them. But when one gets that realization that it's not working, I'm doing all the things that the culture says if I do, I'll be happy. And I'm not feeling happy or peaceful or satisfied, then almost by way of like default design, you start to call out like, what's going on? What's wrong? You start to ask these real questions.
Yeah.
And so when there's that desire grows in a person to solve the struggles of life, then a human being actually utilizes the human form for its higher purpose. Otherwise, it is generally being used at the level of what the animals can do.
Yeah.
The animals are also desiring safety, so they fight each other. They desire sex. We all search for sex, food. They're also doing that, sleep. So we just do it in a more sophisticated way. It costs us more money and time.
Yeah.
But when the human being starts to inquire about something beyond these basic necessities, then he actually comes to the human platform and can use this body towards something like liberation, getting out of it.
It seems like liberation and also some sort of means of evolution, like some kind of conscious evolution. Because like you said, if we do follow the popular paradigm of culture, we do stay animalistic in a way. But then if we follow the path per se, it seems as though we transcend the animal and morph into this other being, some other being with other habits and different behaviors that go beyond the animalistic behaviors. It's quite peculiar. It seems like that's what we're doing. If there's something going on here, it seems like evolution hasn't stopped. There's still an evolution happening. It wasn't just like Darwinian evolution. That's it. We became the human that you see. It's like, no, I think we're still like moving into this almost angelic form, it seems.
Yeah. It's one of our saints, one of my teachers, he calls it subjective evolution.
Oh, I like that.
That
That's good.
Darwin is is talking about, the form itself is changing, but actually, yeah, the subject who's perceiving all these things is evolving. And so consciousness at its basic primal form, it is said, we're food conscious. Like the children, you see them, everything has to go to the mouth. So that's like childlike primal consciousness, but higher than that, then survival conscious. It's called pranamaya. Everyone's trying to defend themselves. They don't want to be hurt or killed. And higher than that is something called jnanamaya. One is interested in knowledge, how to get things done.
Mm-hmm.
And higher than that, then they want to have realized knowledge, spiritual knowledge, vijnanamaya. And ultimately, knowledge should lead us to ecstasy, to joy, to bliss, which is called, Ananda Maya consciousness. So rightly said, this evolution is happening. We're becoming from animalistic consciousness to this sort of a refined human being, as you're saying, like more angelic, more embracing divine qualities.
Mm. So would you say the monastic path is the easiest way to reach that refinement? Like the most efficient way to go about this refinement in one's life?
Yeah, on a personal note, I'd say that it's like a shortcut.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that I want to adjust my consciousness. And if I require some training, I require a situation that is just about that. And at the core of this new consciousness, this subjective evolution, is tapping back to this mood, which is naturally there, of finding happiness in service.
Uh-huh.
When we do things for others, family, society, nation, we find we get a greater satisfaction. And so that service spirit, when it is reposed to the ultimate personality, Krishna, the divine being, it yields the greatest satisfaction.
Yeah.
And so within the monastic situation, that's the focus, and all the activities are around developing this service attitude.
Mm.
But it's not the most practical thing for the masses.
Yeah.
And so you get a few monastics, they need to teach this yogic path to the masses, in that from wherever you are, there's a beautiful verse, Stanestita Shruti Gata Tanovanam Manabi, which says, Stanestita, stay where you are. Shrutivan, just hear and absorb your mind in the talks about the divine realm, the supreme person, and your divine nature. And by understanding and hearing about that, then whatever you're doing becomes connected to this divine understanding. So that yoga connection. So then your work, your recreation, your eating, your sleeping, your mating becomes spiritualized.
Mm-hmm.
And so you are able to function in the world, but then you bring the divine consciousness into your area of influence. So in that way, the masses of people have a sort of a monastic living, but within their own spaces.
Uh-huh. I see. Yeah. It's almost like I see monastics as being the pioneers of this wavelength, being the teachers of this wavelength. But the way you put it, it's like eventually everyone's going to kind of get on this wavelength. In other words, humanity's going to realize life is a sadhana, earth is an ashram, and we are all the Sangha. So I see monastics in the time that we're speaking as the ones that are paving the way for that. you know?
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
I like how you put that.
I do believe it, man.
No, it's a fact. I think the example has to be set. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how also materialism and consumerism is marching on, because the example of it is always put in our faces, and for monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
So everyone just repeats that.
Mm-hmm.
So when people are now beginning to look for an alternate way of being,
Mm-hmm.
then the monastics and their practical way of being has to be then seen by the people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it rings more true when individuals that are not necessarily fully monastic are showing that the knowledge, the awareness can be integrated into the lifestyle that most people are comfortable in, meaning within a home with children, wife, with assets,
Yeah.
and dealing with money.
Mm.
And then it's easier for most to apply.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So really what this all amounts to, put in a simplistic manner, is that one's life, yes, we seem to form some kind of connection with a greater whole, the divine, God. That's cool. That's the first step. And then the next step is you work from that. Your seva becomes working and doing for that divine whole, which is ultimately in humanity as well. So what I'm saying is what comes from this path eventually comes, how do I put this? What comes from following the path is just being a selfless servant of that divine, which leads to just becoming a servant to humanity. Like you just become a natural flowing expression, like an instrument of God. You just tune yourself to it, and then you play the song. Would you say that's an apt description? Like you just naturally, the service just kind of comes about. It almost becomes obligatory at some point.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
We want to be instruments of that grace. We want to reflect that love of Krishna in this world, and to demonstrate the joy of the soul, which is from selfless service.
The joy of the soul. I like that. If you ever write a book, that should be your title. I like that a lot. The joy of the soul.
Okay, I'll note that.
If it's not already taken, that's good.
Yeah, we were just out on the streets doing some Hare Krishna chanting. And one man came to us and he said, I really love this. He said, you guys are actually free.
Huh.
And he was pointing at everyone else. Everyone else is hooked and stuck. And you guys are free. You can come out and sing like children. I think that is really what the soul is about. And I thought he was really on it. You could see that by being connected, we transcend all these so-called rules and regulations that keep us thinking, I should toe the line in this way and that way, and somehow I'll become happy by just doing what everyone else is doing.
Yeah. Did he actually say you're out here singing like children?
Yeah.
Yeah, that just brings up the Bible quote to me. Unless you become like children, then you'll never enter the kingdom of heaven. Yeah, it's coming back to a sense of innocence, right? A sense of pureness, sattvic living. Oh man, I feel that. Yeah, what do you think, if we could dive into that a little more, what do you think he saw in you that was free? If you could explain what that means. What do you think freedom is? Because there's a lot, that's a buzzword in this realm, liberation, freedom. So how would you describe true freedom, like true freedom in our consciousness? I know that's a big one.
Yeah. No, but it's a good one. I felt that the man was, thoughtful, very thoughtful.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to be, when I'm out on the streets and singing and chanting, I have this smile that just is part of my being. But when we're chanting Hare Krishna, it's just, we're no longer sort of here, so, and part of that chanting, I'm always meditating that may this sound vibration be received by who's hearing it, and in a way that they can understand that this vibration is not from this dimension, and that their hearts can connect to that place which has no confines, like death and old age and disease. And so that freedom to just let go of what's supposed to be and connect to what is. And someone looks at it and just knows this person is really into what they're doing. And then therefore they're no longer part of this, but they're part of that.
Yeah.
Whatever they're doing.
It's like an alternative storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's the storyline. It is the way that you're tuning yourself to. Wow. Yeah, it's like like you said, you're not here. There is nobody here. You just lose yourself to just the current, man. You lose yourself, your sense of self with a lowercase s, and you gain a sense of self with an uppercase s.
Yeah. Reminds me of that statement of Jesus, to live in this world, but not be of this world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like this person is seeing, these guys are no longer just about here. They are really somewhere else,
Almost like aliens. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, though. Yeah. I try to keep that quote in the back of my head: be in this world, not of this world. I mean, that's a rabbit hole in itself, because then one can go down and think like, all right, well, what's going on here? Is there something like, are we under some kind of spell, from some kind of, cabal or something? Like what has gone astray? Who knows? But there's something definitely up here. The illusion of Maya is very strong at this point in time. So yeah, it's like, if you get sucked into that, man, I don't know. I mean, we've all, I feel like, come from, originally we all come from source. We get sucked into Maya, and then I guess it's our path to be in the illusion of Maya and not of the illusion of Maya. But it's so strong, man. And it's so, like, in today's world, it's so, it's just like, it's hard to shield oneself from getting sucked into the noise and the drama, That's why I see the monastic path, and I bow to everybody in that, and I totally understand why one follows that, because the dangers are out there to confine oneself into the idea and paradigm of the ego. I don't really have anything else to say about that. I don't know where I was going, but I think you know what I mean. The Maya, man.
It's true. It's true. This is often raised to me by persons that I'm dealing with, that I'm walking with, some that I'm as their teacher or as a friend, like that because they are sort of on their own once they leave the sanctuary of being with us, the monks, then everything is almost like what Morpheus told Neo in the Matrix, that everyone that's connected to the Matrix is a potential agent. So it's like that. It's the people, they are operating based on the illusory conceptions that are being pushed out. And, all the media is also pumping that same narrative. The food, the water is basically
everything
is pervaded by
everything is the matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the
So
key,
you need to really be strong
yeah.
to withstand that current.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the advice I always give is, yes, the association has to be valued. When there is some sangha, either it's online or in person, make yourself available. And these days, there's a lot of recordings. You can listen to the Hare Krishna mantra. You can hear different lectures. Just always plug in to hearing of the alternate position. And that hearing is itself imbued with spiritual potency. So it kicks out all that Maya's broadcast.
Right. It's a different tuning. We're tuning ourselves slightly different to the frequency of God. Yeah. It's to see through the illusion. And I feel like once one gets on the path, it's easier. It's easier to see through the illusion of Maya. Because it's just like, at some point, personally speaking, you can just see how futile it all is. Once one gets really serious with Krishna consciousness, but once one gets really serious on the path, if you're really, if you're 100% on this path, not, no half measures, if you're really about it, it's so easy to see. It's just it's almost like juvenile at some point to see through all of the illusions of Maya and the different shapes and ways that Maya may try to tempt one. It's so easy and apparent to see. There's nothing stronger than the frequency of God. Once you tune yourself, once you tune your radio frequency to the frequency of the divine love that you are, anything else, it's like, all right.
Here comes again. Oh, that's you again, dressed like this, or you're coming in a different way now.
Just different forms. It's just like what Ram Dass says, treat everybody like God and drag. And I feel as though everybody and everything at this point is God and drag. And that's how we respond to the illusion. It's like not necessarily, it depends on the situation, I'm talking generally here, but it's not necessarily push people away and resist the illusion of Maya. To be in the world is actually, I feel as though if one can see through the illusion and see Krishna within somebody that doesn't even know they're God, somebody that doesn't even know they're a part of this greater aspect of the divine. I think that's where it gets tricky. How can you love through somebody else's illusion? Through the illusions of all of this world, how can we love and selflessly serve in the best of our ability, even in the most darkness, even in the most thickness of Maya? We do the path, I guess, to refine ourselves, to ultimately be tested on how we can love throughout all of our suffering. That's how I see it, at least. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel as though, we're in different circumstances, obviously, but me living in the Western world, I'm in it, man. I'm in Maya, physically.
Vortex.
What? What?
I was saying in the vortex.
Yeah, I'm in the vortex, man. So every day it seems as though it's another test. It's another. Maya always is trying to wiggle itself in there to see if it'll get me to not love and to fear another. So it seems like we do this path to just see through the illusion. And ultimately that makes life, if one can pass the test per se, I see it as that makes life better for me and the other people that do or don't know that they're God and drag. It's a win-win. But it's an everyday thing. You got to have discipline. I feel as though this isn't just you go to a yoga class on a Sunday morning and that's it. Then you go back into it. It's no, this is a life. This is a lifestyle. There's no half measures in the yogic lifestyle, I feel. Yeah, obviously, I'm not preaching to you, man. I'm just saying, just speaking out loud, thinking out loud here.
No, it's great. It's great. And you were really on it there, because Krishna also mentions that, one who sees everything in me and who sees everyone in me, then I'm never lost to him. He's never lost to me.
Yeah.
And this idea of loving others and serving others is if we actually try to always see that they are that part of the divine whole, they are spiritual beings. And then the illusion and whatever is keeping us, covering us, then is secondary. Like you were saying in that statement, God in drag,
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, we have to work to stay Krishna conscious, as you were saying, God conscious. Our spiritual eyes should be open. Then we're able to try and love and serve because we're seeing past what's covering people.
Yeah.
Because generally, consciousness, especially our lower nature, is to find the faults only and then conclude that people are just this and that and the other.
Yep.
And so it's hard to honor people that you think are like low class or just downtrodden or bad. But when we look for that, the best quality is what they are. They're connected to the Supreme Being. That's their glory. And so they are wonderful in that sense. It's just they're not aware. Yeah.
Mm.
So then opportunity for this service is always there. Yeah, but it's not as easy because when someone is unaware that they're connected to you so intimately, in spiritual brotherhood or sisterhood, they may resist you trying to connect to them. They think you want to exploit them somehow. If these days, when you greet someone, hey, how are you doing? They're already thinking, hey, what do you want?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it becomes tricky to show that love. I find this method of chanting Hare Krishna it makes it hard for someone to resist. It's a song. They're out on the street, they're playing music. It's free entertainment. So even if someone is hard and tough and they come closer, you see them, tapping their foot or nodding their head, and then even a smile breaks out. So then they accept that love, that service, we're supplying the spiritual song.
Yeah. Supplying without any want for anything in return, right? That's pretty much the premise of the Bhagavad Gita. It's to just almost make your life, it seems, as just like an offering. The service isn't like, I serve you. All right, now what are you going to do for me? It's like, no, I serve you. If you want it, take it. Yeah. That seems to be the wavelength. Yeah. And that is a flow, I feel. Because when we want something from somebody or our life, any kind of desire, that's when we create resistance to what is. But if you're just naturally flowing as that instrument, you're just offering here, offering there. You just offer a little bit of love here, a little bit of love there. Do some chanting on the streets, and it's just this cohesive lifestyle pattern that I feel like you build around this whole selfless path. Yeah, I get it. It makes so much sense. That's the thing, is it makes so much sense when you really just do study these, scriptures, and you weigh it within yourself and you meditate on it and you actually bring it forth in one's life. It's like, oh, of course, this is how life is supposed to be. This is, of course. I'm just like, we all know. I mean, for anybody listening, when you do something for somebody just out of like genuine charity, it feels good. And we don't even do it necessarily. If you don't even do it just to feel good, it just happens. You just naturally feel good from doing things. The key is to not do it to feel good, I guess. That's the trick. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like, that just seems to be the way of the human, it seems, in this evolution that we're talking about. It's just evolving to become some sort of offering. Some sort of offering. This body is a offering, it seems. It's an instrument, and the instrumentality is some sort of offering in the lifestyle. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud again.
No, it's great. Great.
Oh man, I don't even know. We've covered a lot of ground for a short amount of time. Yeah, this is good. This is a good talk. I don't even know where to go from here. I guess maybe we can take it down a notch. What are some practices and modalities that you would recommend to somebody that does approach you on the street, the layman, and they're like, "Hey, man, what's going on here? Like, how do I get what you got?" In terms of your, like, what's the magic sauce? What do you guys do? Does it just start with meditation, chanting? What would you say?
Yeah, I always tell people the fact that you have a question, this is the beginning.
I see.
And please ask all your questions. Yeah, we have time for that. And we also have these books that are discussing the whole lifestyle. So whatever is in these books is what we accept as our teaching, the knowledge, the truth. So you have to investigate it, read it, and let's stay connected. Now we're friends. And I give them my card. This is my number. And whatever you want to discuss from these books, I'm available for you. But you have to enter the laboratory and make the experiments also.
Mm-hmm.
So the books are prescribing this chanting, what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so we are doing it and we're getting the result. But it would be difficult for me to tell you that this cake tastes amazing until you put it in your own mouth.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
So then I encourage people to really interact with the knowledge, and I try to create a relationship between myself and them so that we can interact on this, because it's a gradual thing for someone to then get the perspective shifted to sort of change their way of seeing things. Yeah.
But it starts with the question.
Those are the primary things.
Mm-hmm. It starts with the curiosity. It starts with just like a simple, like, wait, hold on. A simple,
What is this?
Yeah, what's going on? Yeah.
Yeah, then the next thing is that some relationship with someone involved with it. Because there's a tendency that someone wants to know what you're about. But then impersonalism is that they don't want to know from you because they think that you're going to convince them of something.
Yeah.
So they think, then I'll go elsewhere to find out about this. So now you're losing out on someone who's actually living out this that you're curious about, first-hand information. So I try to make that relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like just a general friendship, spiritual friendship. Do you have a teacher, a guru?
Yes. My teacher, he left his body in 2020. His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami.
Wow.
He's actually, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada.
Oh, I see.
This is this gentleman, my teacher.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bow to him. Is he the one that befriended you? Like, did you see him on the street per se, or did you meet? Was it from your original friendship? I think you said you saw like a tall African man. Did you find your guru through him? How did this come about?
Yeah, I met a group of monks from that campus program.
Okay.
And through them, then I started to meet initiating gurus who would come to visit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was the fourth guru that I'd met within a space of 2 months that I'd come across Krishna consciousness. And there was that connection I felt as he shared the same wisdom. I felt, okay, here's an individual that I'm willing to really give heart and become a surrendered student and try to live under their guidance.
I see. Yeah. So from how I understand the guru-disciple relationship is that the teacher just almost is like your ultimate guide to yourself that knows better than you. Would you say that's a apt, simple description?
Yes, yes. And the wonderful thing about that is that there's that two-way relationship where you can, put forward your doubts, your trials, your victories, your desires. And then the guru who has walked the path, who has, a much more elevated, pure consciousness can then help you modify, help you see the speed bumps and pitfalls.
Yeah,
and
I see. Mm-hmm.
So guides you from that perspective of realized understanding.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Yeah, I feel as though that's very valuable. It's almost like to have another viewpoint of yourself, somebody that's part of yourself, but outside of the body in a way. I don't know. I don't have any per se guru in a humanly form that I know of at this point, so it's hard for me to speak on. But from what I see of other people that they have dedicated teachers, it seems to be a very valuable thing on the path. Like you said, to see your own pitfalls.
Yeah. On this part, in fact, it's the beginning of the sincere journey. Ado Guru Padashraya. In the beginning, one has to take shelter of the lotus feet of the spiritual master. It's almost even, preschool, elementary school, university, wherever. To begin any proper understanding of a subject, there must be a teacher.
Yeah, it only makes sense.
It tends to be that when it comes to the spiritual, the popular narrative is that's when now it's up to you and you can find it on your own and you can make it on your own. Whereas it's the most complex subject, more refined path. It really needs a lot of support and a lot of guidance. And so Guru becomes that via medium between what Krishna is teaching, ultimately what God is. So he's a representative of that message, that love, that protection of God, who can deal with me in person and chastise me, correct me, inspire me.
So it seems like the ultimate transparent relationship with another human, which is a transparent relationship with God. They're like it seems to be like a causal link to God through somebody that is in the human form, somebody that is already done the work per se. They're already somebody that's realized and they're here to just be the offering to others, it seems. Yeah. Now, was this like an intuitive understanding? Like this guy walked in the room and you're like, yep, this is it? Or is it something that he said? Like, how did you know that this was the guy?
Yeah. He came through and just his frame, he almost looks like Prabhupada. So initially it was almost like, hey, is Prabhupada come back to life? And very gentlemanly, just aristocratic, he, I was attracted naturally, also Western mind, just hooligan type. So I really needed someone who could change my whole frequency.
Yeah.
But then what happened is that he came to speak about a particular topic. And hardly 15 minutes into that, he switched to a topic about Zimbabwe. At that time, Robert Mugabe had kicked out the British that were in Zimbabwe.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I understand why Mugabe would do such a thing. He's now painted as this dictator, but you think yourself, you are ruling your own country and you have no control of the assets of the country. All the land is owned by someone else. You cannot help your people. And so then there's no more diplomatic recourse that you can use. So then you just have to use a type of, you could say, violence, get out of here. Mm-hmm. So within me was just a confirmation, wow, the soul is not just here to promote just Krishna and the lifestyle of Krishna, become involved with Krishna. But he's so involved with Krishna that he can empathize and put himself in the shoes of someone who has been painted by the media machine as just this demon dictator like Mugabe.
Yeah.
So I thought he really has a big heart and very compassionate. And then it just completed my attraction.
I see. Yeah, that kind of gets back to what we were talking about with the illusions of Maya. And that's, how do you love the dictators? That's a big test right there. That's Maya really testing you. Can you see Krishna in these so-called evil dictators? And it seems as though, from your understanding, he passed that test. He seemed to be able to love this so-called evil man. Yeah, that's quite interesting. That is the big test, though, because there is a lot of apparent darkness and apparent evil doings of man. So I guess us on the path, it's like, yeah, how can we just not see the surface level doings in that and see really through that and forgive, true forgiveness? Easier said than done, for sure. Mm-hmm. Easier said than done, but I think that's the path. It's the path to true forgiveness of all of humanity's sins. Easier said than done. For sure. Oh, wow. I was listening to a Bob Marley song called Zimbabwe yesterday. I'm like, wow, this is a good song. And it was probably about what you just spoke. And I had no idea that I didn't know the story of the song. I was like, oh, this is cool. I never heard this before. Synchronicity right here, man. This is good.
He wrote it when he came to Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Actually, he had a concert in Zimbabwe.
Oh.
And his mission to come there was this, that the people are under that subjugation.
Uh-huh.
To divide and rule could only tear us apart.
Mm-hmm.
In every man's chest, there beats a heart. Bob, was a prophet. He was a missionary.
Yeah.
Really. Till today, his words, they supply individuals great solace and encouragement.
Amen to that. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I didn't even know the story before you just said it right now. Mm-hmm. But I still resonated with the message of that song, the transmission. It was some kind of transmission. And I think really that's the purpose of the guru, of the prophet, of the missionary, is to be the transmission of love in whatever medium that comes forth. It's to be like a chain in the link of the love of God. And I find it quite interesting that you said your guru walked in and you thought it was it was his guru, Prabhupada. Like you said, wait, because I feel as though this is what I've analyzed in the past, meditation, the guru-disciple relationship. It's like the guru is not only your teacher, but it's like he's transmitting some kind of energy to you. It seems to be like whatever this force of love, this wavelength of love, it's like something that's passed through people. you know, and it's through teachings, it's through like literally refining our character. But at a like energetic level, it seems to me like what we do is we like, it's this wavelength energy form that travels through our words and our actions. So I see that as the pinnacle of the guru disciple relationship. It's like the guru eventually, well, I mean, the disciple eventually becomes the guru. And those are just labels, but really what it is just like this transmission of energetic love passing through the instrument that we are. It's like, in a way, you do, you become an embodiment of Prabhupada. Like, it's this chain, you know, it's just like this soul family chain. It just keeps going, and you slowly morph into this other being, it seems. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud again.
Oh, your thoughts are like rivers of nectar. Your thoughts, I mean,
Yeah.
acts like a mood that just pervades you. You embody that mood
Yeah.
of your teacher, and ultimately you transmit that to others who see you as an inspiration, as a teacher, as a guide, and it keeps going. It's so true.
I'm always interested of knowing who the guru's guru was. I'm like, all right, this guy is very wise. Who was his teacher? And then I keep going, you know, as far as you can go on the internet. I'm like, all right, well, that's his teacher. Who was his teacher? And it's so valuable, I feel, as though, to people on the path that really, you know, value yogic knowledge and you know, teachings of these realized people, to follow who they learned from. I feel as though there's something about that. I don't know why, just me personally. I'm like, I want to know who was the master of the master. You know, like Obi-Wan Kenobi, he had Qui-Gon Jinn. Well, who was Qui-Gon Jinn's? It's like, just like, there's something valuable about that, to actually see that chain, that transmission that travels through the humanly form, that transcends the humanly forms, but to find that similarity between them. You know, there might be physical differences. There might be differences in the way that it expresses in a human being, you know, how they teach, how they go about it. But my goal sometimes is to find the similarity between all of them. Like, what are they really getting at? What's the juice of these teachings? Yeah, I feel as though, recommend to anybody here, find who is the teacher's teacher. What are they really getting at here? It's an interesting thing. And ultimately, the teacher's teacher is the Satguru within. It's the God. It's Krishna. It's really just like this chain of Krishna that travels throughout us. And we're refining our character to come back into that, you know? Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's really good advice, actually. Anyone who hears this, that it helps also in our conviction as to the value of those teachings, because there can be, and these days are, you know, self-made teachers. I make up my teachings, or I collect this and that and the other, and then I'm the final authority. So that's generally not a safe ship to dock, to get on board.
Yeah.
It's good to know, you know, that this personality himself is a servant of another greater personality.
Yeah, a lineage.
Therefore, in that way, they've been trained in and have received the grace and the knowledge from their teacher who has received. And ultimately, you see that chain back to the ocean of wisdom and knowledge and love, you know.
I see that as the highest value to have in the lineage. It's like, it's to have the initiation from somebody that is realized, because like you said, anybody can truly just go online and make videos. And I guess that's what I'm doing to a certain extent, but I don't call myself a teacher. I don't call myself a guru, or, you know, I don't have any specific lineage. So I guess that's, you know, that's how I'm not into that. But the value in having a, what's it called? Yeah. A lineage, having like a chain, is to have the, what's the word I'm looking for, man? It's to have
like a disciplined succession, you know?
Yeah. It's like a stamp of approval in a way. It's to know that, like, this is this is legitimate, it's verified in a way. You get the check mark.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, you're good. That's the point I see of the monastic path. It's like, yeah, you are the teacher. You get the thumbs up from society to say, yeah, he's good. You get he's not just BSing. I mean, there may be some monks out there. I'm not speaking for everybody. There may be some people that aren't quite, I don't know, maybe they're not the best teachers. It's obviously a generalization, but I think in that generalization, it's that, like, yeah, if you have this connection to this said transmission, it is some kind of validation to, like, trust what they're saying. Yeah. If you want to take, for instance, the Buddhist monastic path, supposedly everybody that's a Buddhist monk, it's like supposedly a chain to the Buddha himself. It may be through like hundreds, I don't know how many generations, but it's like, if you see somebody that is a monastic Buddha, a monastic Buddhist, they have this chain throughout the years of teacher to disciple relationship that ultimately stems to the Buddha. If it's a legitimate path, supposedly that's the story, and that's why it's actually legitimate in the teachings that one brings forth. That's how I see it.
True.
Would you now, how is that different from the monastic path of yoga, right? Because I see myself as like a yogic Buddhist Christian. I don't know how else to explain it. Like I dabble a little bit in, I try to see the truth in all of those different paths. I believe they all relate in one way or the other. If you could, your teacher had a teacher, and your teacher had a teacher, and your teacher had a teacher. Where does this lead to? Because in Buddhist monastic, it's like, yeah, well, Siddhartha Gautama, he was the one. So where is it? Is it some kind of avatar?
It's the head of all lineages, or the ultimate guru, as we said, the Sadguru, the Jagat Guru, is Krishna himself. So God.
Yeah.
And then the one other aspect of Krishna is that he is within the heart of every living being, as the super soul, the indwelling guide. And as far as his knowledge in Bhagavad Gita, he mentions how he had spoken this wisdom originally to the sun god millions of years ago. And so the sun god taught it to his son. His son taught it to Manu. Manu is like the progenitor of the human species. And so from guru to disciple. And then, so within this, what we would call Vaishnava traditions, there's 4 lineages that are considered bona fide or authorized. So at the head of these disciplic lines, one is from Brahma, the other one is from the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, the other one is coming from the Kumaras, and the other one is coming from Shiva.
I see.
So Prabhupada is in that chain coming from Brahma, or the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. And within that chain, there's some extra luminaries that are significant to mention. One of them is Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's actually an incarnation of Krishna who inaugurated this chanting of Hare Krishna as the means with which one can very quickly purify the heart and actually put into action the teachings of the Gita that Krishna had spoken.
And that was somewhat recent, right?
That was, over just 530 years ago. Krishna Chaitanya was in today's India.
Wow. Whew. Okay, that's good. That makes a lot of sense. So it all stems back to God and the avatars of God. Yeah, slightly different in the way the Buddhist monastic paths outline their lineage. I find it interesting. Whew, this is good stuff, man. I don't even know where to go from here. Yeah, I appreciate your time coming on here. You're a very wise man. I've actually learned a lot from this. I think we had a great flow. It's very insightful. Yeah, I think we can probably start to wrap this thing up, to be honest. I don't No. Do you have anything you want to say? Any, last words for the pod?
No, I'd say, yeah, great conversation. We covered some ground, and I think, maybe in the future we can pick the certain topics and talk about it.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say, whoever is there, let's get connected. I like relationships. I think we learn better person to person. And so you can find me on social media as Savya The Monk. Yeah, here on YouTube, on Instagram, and on TikTok, but mainly Instagram and YouTube. I'm very active.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll put everything down in the description for anybody. I don't know what else to say. I thank you for your time.
Pursue it. We should not be lazy.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who is inspired by what you hear from our discussion with Gary, put some energy in trying to pursue the inner path, and you will not be disappointed.
Mm-hmm. It's worth it. It's worth it. Well, I thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank
Savya.
you so much.
Thank you. Keep doing your thing. I wish you all the best. Thank you for anybody that listened this long. Namaste.
Thank you, Gary. Take care. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.